Our lead is airborne. We go in 60.
On this flight, Captain Grieve is the mission commander.
What's different is the captain, like you would think the aircraft commander, is actually in the right seat. And we call him a mission commander. And the pilot is in the left seat.
First MCT.
Good cues.
The very first time I flew the B-2, I felt like I was a bird. It was so smooth. You just slightly touch the flight controls and she does what you want.
$100 knots.
What was that?
FCS caution.
Stop or go?
Go. Warning rescinded.
In the B-2, there's two different kind of caution lights, the red one and a yellow one. In this case, it was yellow, which is just precautionary. A red caution light, you probably abort the takeoff.
145, rotate.
Spirit of Kansas lifts off the runway at Guam. Almost immediately, the massive bomber pitches up dramatically.
Next thing they know, they're going straight up.
The momentum of that maneuver up caused their pilots to experience about 1.6 Gs.
The aircraft's no longer doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Full power.
The B-2 isn't gaining altitude. It's still only 80 feet off the ground and losing speed.
Make believe you're in your automobile right now. You turn left, but the car turns right. What is going on? That's not the way it's supposed to work. That's the scenario these pilots were in.
The pilots now feel their airplane shaking violently and realize it's on the verge of stalling.
From my 15 years of flying the B-2, the only time I felt the B-2 shake is in the simulator. That's the only scenario where you will feel that shake. You never feel it otherwise.
The plane's left wing drops. Grieve knows the plane is heading for the ground. There's only one thing he can do to save his and Major Link's life.
They are trained to have that gut feel of when to pull the ejection handle. And don't forget, the Air Force wants these pilots to eject and save themselves. There is no shame in ejecting ever, even from a billion-dollar bomber.
Grieve doesn't have time to think about his decision. The B-2's left wing is now scraping the ground.
We're gonna get out.
Explosives tear a hole in the fuselage above the cockpit, and rockets eject the pilots from the aircraft. The stealth bomber hits the ground and bursts into flames.
Alert 1, runway 6, Romeo, runway 6, Romeo.
I'm stunned. The B-2 has gone through 19 years and 3 wars without a crash. This is unheard of.
One of the world's most advanced warplanes has been incinerated during a routine takeoff. The whole world is left wondering what went wrong. For 2 straight days, firefighters at Anderson Air Force Base in Guam battled the flaming wreckage of B-2 bomber Spirit of Kansas. With a price tag of $2 billion, this is the most expensive aviation accident of all time.
The crash at Guam did shake us to the core in that we want to know what the heck just happened.
Operations of the entire B-2 fleet are suspended, even before an investigation is launched.
It's bad to have to stand down the B-2 flying operations. On the other hand, they have no choice. They have no idea what's gone wrong inside that B-2, and they have to find out before they risk any more B-2s in flight.
The U.S. Air Force appoints the well-respected General Floyd Carpenter to lead the investigation.
Because of the high-profile nature of this accident, I think they expect a lot of media interest. And so as a senior brigadier general, I was picked, I think, to get the airplanes back operational and cleared to fly again.
You're never going to believe this.
Investigators watch the accident unfold on security video.
Great to have the video, and we were able to glean a lot of information from it.
Video of the takeoff shows that as the plane lifted off, it pitched nose high.
Your first reaction when you see that airplane pitch up is like, what are they doing?
The plane then drifts left before the left wing scrapes the ground.
Left wing falls off and hits the ground. And through that whole thing, you were thinking, where is the crew? First time you see it, you probably don't realize the crew actually ejects.
Can you take it back for me, please? Stop. That's the pilots. 1 and 2.
The video shows the pilots ejecting just as the plane hits the ground. Both pilots have been taken to hospital for evaluation. Justin Grieve has suffered a serious back injury from the forces of the ejection.
It was a waiting process for us and gathering all the other information while we waited to talk to them and hear their side of what really happened.
Investigators study the mechanical and computer systems that control the jet.
Perfect. What about the actuator?
We had so much of the aircraft already available, actuators, engines, all those things are what you're really looking for in this type of accident.
They quickly determined that all of the plane's flight control surfaces were functioning on takeoff.
Pretty quickly, we were able to rule out the fact that the engines were not a problem, the hydraulics weren't a problem, the flight controls were not a problem.
We pulled these from the video.
Up, up, up.
It's a beautiful sunny morning. Why does the bomber pitch its nose up and crash in a fireball on the runway at Guam?
Is this a weight and balance issue?
In any deployment like that, it's not uncommon to load aircraft with spare parts or other equipment that you might want to get home and not wait to ship home.
Some classified material going back to Whiteman, personal belongings, gear.
So center of gravity became a big issue for us. Could it have been that?
Not enough to disrupt their balance, sir.
The B-2 is capable of carrying 40,000 pounds of weaponry. But Spirit of Kansas wasn't carrying any bombs or other heavy cargo that could have shifted on takeoff.
We found out that there really wasn't a lot of equipment. There were no munitions being carried. So everything was in balance as it should have been. And so center of gravity was ruled out pretty quick.
Investigators look more closely at the takeoff rolls of both B-2s on the day of the accident. For clues as to why Spirit of Kansas couldn't get airborne like the plane just ahead of it, Spirit of South Carolina.
Okay, pause it right here. Okay, so South Carolina lifts off just past that taxiway, right about here.
Because we did have video, we were able to look at the takeoff roll of the lead aircraft compared to the second aircraft.
And stop. Okay, our guys lift off just past that runway light, which is this guy right here. Look at that.
We found out that Spirit Kansas took off 1,500 feet shorter than its lead aircraft.
What is going on?
Again, video helped us understand that takeoff roll was shorter, but didn't understand why.
The investigators turned to data from the bomber's flight recorder for answers.
The plane is still on the ground, 546 feet above sea level. Not 682. So the altitude is off by 136 feet. Now, sir, there is no way he got up to 145 knots using only this much runway.
Agreed.
Something happened to cause this airplane to pitch up. But so far, we've ruled out all the easy stuff. And so now we start looking into other situations that could have caused an aircraft to do what it did.
Now here, sir, the nose is lifting off the ground, but the plane registers a pitch down of -8 degrees. Now, obviously, this plane is not pitching down, but the computer thinks it is. That is why I tried to lift the nose higher and higher and higher.
Until it stalled.
Once we got the performance parameters of the aircraft, and we were able to determine that the airplane thought that it was -8 degrees angle of attack, then you start going back to say, why did it think that?
The heart of the B-2 bomber is its sophisticated onboard computer, known as its Flight Control System, or FCS. Without it, it would be impossible for pilots to make all the calculations necessary to keep the unusual aircraft flying.
You don't have a tail. Think about that. You don't have any kind of vertical empennage. It's just a big flying wing.
Accurate data is crucial. On a B-2, pilots tell the computer what they want the plane to do, and the computer determines how to accomplish that.
The flight computers move the surfaces of this airplane in a way that's not intuitive to any pilot of any other aircraft. Simply put, it'd be nearly impossible to fly this airplane safely without flight computers.
So, airspeed, climb angle, and altitude are all off. How does that happen on this plane?
Investigators need to determine why the stealth bomber was getting faulty data.
Let's see what the pilots can tell us.
We weren't looking to blame them or, point the finger at them, but there were tough questions to ask.
This April on National Geographic Network. Massive machines require engineering extremes.
These are the most powerful devices ever produced by mankind.
We strip down these big ideas to reveal the makings of the world's greatest mechanical marvels. Cargo ships move the world, but they are also gargantuan polluters. We go beyond the vessel to meet with the pioneers, hoping to turn the tide.
We use renewable energy and hydrogen. These solutions are available for a clean future.
Join our very own explorer, Albert Lynn, as he traverses the globe to map out the ancient civilization.
Something incredible happened here about 800 years ago.
All week long, see wildlife at its most brutal as we bring you up close to some of the most lethal predators on the planet. All new this April on National Geographic Network.
You guys ready? All right, guys, let's go, let's go!
At Zoo Tampa, our commitment is to each of the 1,100 individual animals in our care.
Love your little faces. We'll do anything for them. We're really lucky to be here. This is why we do what we do.
Secrets of the Zoo Tampa, Sunday nights at 8:30, new to National Geographic Wild. Welcome to America's busiest border patrols, where the law and the lawless face off. And this Wild West just got wilder.
People in the trunk. Now that the COVID restrictions are being loosened, we're seeing an uptick in smuggling activities.
Get inside access as federal agencies work around the clock to catch modern-day outlaws.
This is the first time I've ever seen this.
To Catch a Smuggler, Thursday nights at 11. New to National Geographic.
They had no idea
what was ahead.
Yeah.
That's the area in which people were confined.
They knew then that they were at the place that they weren't going to never return.
We can't go back to Africa, so we'll make our own Africa town.
That spirit of my ancestors, that spirit lives in me.
Clotilda, Last American Slave Ship, April 2nd at 9 p.m. New to National Geographic.
3 weeks after the accident, the pilots of Spirit of Kansas agree to be interviewed by investigators.
Okay, Captain. How about we take it from the top?
We started up at 9:15. A few minutes later, Major Link saw the calibration message during startup.
The pilots tell investigators that they received an unusual computer message shortly after startup.
Never seen that.
Me neither. Hey, Chief, we're seeing an air data cal message. Can you send someone up here to clear that up?
Air Data Cal stands for Air Data Calibration.
In the simplest terms, the air data calibration gives the aircraft its orientation to the universe.
There are 24 sensors flush-mounted near the nose of the B-2 that constantly measure air pressure. The plane's computer uses those readings to calculate altitude, airspeed, and angle of attack.
All 24 systems have memory in them, and they're measuring themselves against all the others. And so if they get out of balance, if one is reading too low or too high, it calls for an air data calibration, and the pilots see that. When that occurs, they call out maintenance.
Okay. Let's see what we can do to clear this for you. Can you put it in maintenance mode for me? That's good. You're good to go, sir.
Thank you. So they have these 24 sensors. They make sure they're communicating correctly. And if they do, they let it go forward.
Pitot heat is on.
Less than an hour later,
Clear right. Good to line up.
the pilots maneuver the massive bomber to the start of the runway.
Okay. Go on.
Everything was 100% routine until we hit 100 knots. That's when we got the FCS master caution.
You got a master caution while you were still on the ground.
Yes, sir. Just a flicker. 100 knots. Before I could even push the button, it rescinded itself. What was that? FCS caution.
After 100 knots to our decision rotate speed, we will abort for safety of flight items. We define safety of flight as we are unable to control this airplane or there's something on the runway you're going to hit.
Stop or go? Go. Warning rescinded.
In that scenario, if I was the pilot in command, I would continue. Why? It's not safety of flight.
145, rotate. When we hit 145, I called for Major Link to rotate. Then it all very quickly went to hell.
We lift off. The flight control computer senses a problem, so it pitches up. Pilots try to go nose down.
Full power.
They go max power, but the airplane is trying to stall.
Major Link was trying to push it back down, but it wasn't working. It wasn't having any effect on the plane. We were basically just along for the ride. Then the left wing just drops.